To understand what's just happened to Kevin Warsh, we have to go back to 1948. I know that's a long time ago, but it's the only other time in history that this has happened because, like I said, normally when a Fed chair's term ends, he retires from the Fed. That's tradition. But Powell is staying on, and this has only happened once before. January 31st, 1948. A man named Marriner Eccles, what a name by the way, he walks out of his office in Washington, D.C. For 14 years, he'd been the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the longest serving Fed chairman in history at that point. He'd been appointed by FDR in the depths of the Great Depression. He had run the Fed through the Second World War, and then Harry Truman became president, and Truman just didn't like Eccles. Because Eccles wouldn't do what he was told. Does that sound familiar, by the way? History doesn't repeat, but you know what I mean. So Truman wanted the Fed to keep interest rates artificially low. Cheap money, easy debt, the post-war boom floating on for as long as he could politically milk it. Eccles said, nah, I'm not doing that. He said, if you keep rates artificially low while the economy is running hot, you get inflation. I like Eccles, by the way. He sounds like a smart guy, right? He says, you destroy the dollar, and we're not doing that. So Truman just fired him. Well, technically. I mean, he didn't reappoint him as chairman, but that's roughly the same thing as firing him. So what did Eccles do? He pulled a Powell, or Powell pulled an Eccles, you know what I mean. So he said, I'm not leaving. He stayed on as governor. For 3 years, he just sat there quiet, polite, waiting. And then on March 4th, 1951, Truman made a big mistake. He told a press conference that the entire FOMC had personally agreed to support his Treasury rate cap, and that was a lie. And Eccles knew it was a lie because he was in the room when they talked about it. So Eccles did something brash. He walked over to a journalist and he handed him the FOMC meeting minutes, the actual minutes, the record of everything that was said in the meeting. And it showed that Truman had told the room what he wanted, and the room said, no, we're not doing that. These days, the minutes get published publicly, by the way, but they were secret back then. So the story runs the next day. The President of the United States caught lying about the Federal Reserve by the Federal Reserve. And within 3 weeks, the Treasury and the Fed signed what historians now call the 1951 Accord, the document that established the modern version of the Federal Reserve, the newly independent version of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve that Powell is now running from the shadows, allegedly. Which is why Warsh is screwed. He has the former chairman, who is well liked, by the way, who has the sympathy of his fellow governors in the Fed because of Trump's legal attacks. For those who don't know, by the way, Trump set the Department of Justice on Powell because Powell refused to cut rates. So having a potentially hostile, well-liked former chairman in Powell staying on the board is a big problem for Warsh. By the way, guys, if you want to stay up to date with what's happening in the markets, subscribe to my free newsletter. I publish a report on everything you need to know about the markets every single morning. Basically, I read 20 to 30 articles, I summarize them so you don't have to. There's a link below. Like I said, it's free.